Hi everybody, I'm Peter Skiera, aka Stations Guy. Welcome to today's show. You like the shirt, by the way? These are rubber duckies, in case you can't tell. Rubber ducky, you're the one. You make bath time lots of fun. Okay, that was weird, but that's okay because today's show is about 5 weird slash strange slash odd record albums. And I'm just going to dive right into it and start off with the 1988 holiday film Scrooged, starring Bill Murray. Did, somewhat so-so at the box office. It's developed a cult following, and a lot of cable channels play the movie during the holiday time. I guess it wasn't a very satisfying experience for Bill because he doesn't talk about that movie very much, and what little he does say is not very complimentary. They put out a soundtrack. It's just regular music soundtrack to the film. Nothing weird about that. The film had some notable cameos from some musicians like David Sanborn, Miles Davis, Paul Schaefer, and in fact, they all played on one of the tracks along with Larry Carlton. We Three Kings of Orient Are was on the soundtrack, which came out, the film came out in 1988, soundtrack came out, shortly thereafter. So if there's nothing strange about that, then what the heck are we talking about? Well, we're talking about this soundtrack. Okay, this came out in 2023 by a label called Enjoy the Ride Records, and it came out in a number of different variants. There was a mistletoe explosion, which is a very vibrant green. There was a cigar smoke colored vinyl, which, the character smoked a cigar, Bill Murray's character. There was split black and white splatter. Those are all very limited. But this, and by the way, this is not the same soundtrack that was originally released with the different songs that were in the film. This is Danny Elfman's score to the film, so it's mostly instrumental. And on top of that, there are 9 bonus tracks, which are mostly alternate takes, as you can see there. And there was also, inside was included a, I don't know what you would call it, a personnel listing, I guess, of who performed on the music. So that's interesting. But what makes this strange, unique, odd is Enjoy the Ride Records, in addition to those other variants I told you about, they put out another very limited edition variant called the Snow Globe variant. Are you ready? So this is a liquid-filled record album. It's a real album. You can play it, although some turntables may not like it. It's quite thick, as you can see here, much thicker than a normal vinyl record would be. But they filled it with this sort of champagne-colored fluid with sparkles, and they called it the Snow Globe variant. So, and in addition to that, the other interesting thing is, let's see if I can find it here. You see this sort of orange-colored strip here? So it's the first refillable liquid-filled album. So if some of the liquid evaporates or somehow it just gets reduced, you can mail it to the manufacturer of the record, and they will fill it for you for a small fee, refill it, and then mail it back to you. So very, very unique, interesting. When it first came out, it took months and months and months to make these, and people who ordered them had to wait forever to get them. The retail was $150. They're now on eBay for over $200. But very unique record album there. So that's number 5. I'm counting my way up from 5 and on up to the most strangest album that I've pulled from my very meager collection. And so number 4 is the Ethel Merman Disco album. Now, those of you who don't know who Ethel Merman is, she was a sort of a Broadway tune singer. She was quite boisterous. I mean, she could really belt out the tunes. I'm not sure she even needed a microphone. She was quite a character. She often used salty language. She was married to the actor Ernest Borgnine for a very brief period. The marriage was a complete disaster. They both ended up hating each other, getting a divorce. In fact, in her autobiography, there's a chapter titled My Marriage to Ernest Borgnine, and it's a blank page. And to tell you another story that I read about her, she was invited to a party at someone's home, private party, a lot of celebrities there, and she had some drinks and was getting a bit salty with her language. And the host came up to her in front of everybody and said, look, you know the rules here. I just don't like this kind of language. And he hands this glass jar to her and says, you're going to have to put some money in the swear jar. And Ethel turns around and says, well, how much money do I have to put in to tell you to go F yourself? She didn't say F yourself. She used the F word. But, that was Ethel. And but this album, I see it as kind of like a money grab. It came out in 1979 on A&M Records. And she sings, her typical Broadway show type tunes. There's no business like show business. Everything's coming up roses. I get a kick out of you. Something for the boys, some people, Alexander's Ragtime Band, and I've Got Rhythm. And she sings them like she was singing the song normally, like she would sing it on any record or sing it on the stage. And then what they did was they put an instrumental bed underneath each one that was sort of disco-fied. And like, to me, it's 1979, so disco, if it isn't on its way out, it's going to be on its way out pretty soon. And I guess somebody said, hey, let's try and cash in on this before the disco phase completely dies. And so they threw this together. But it just, even the album title, the Ethel Merman Disco Album, okay, not very creative. It seems like this was just, let's get in there, do it, get it out there, and try and cash in before the disco thing goes away. Even the cover is just kind of weird. It's like, what is that all about? It's like she's smiling as she's running away from a guy. Maybe the guy was going to complain about how awful the record was. I don't know, but it's just, I don't know. I just am kind of disgusted that she even participated in this kind of thing. And what's even more strange is a record company actually re-released it or reissued it for the first time and only time on compact disc. Yes, folks, there it is in all its glory, the Ethel Merman Disco Album on CD. And this was put out by Finesworth Alley. And she went into the studio, actually recorded 14 tracks, only 7 of which ended up on the vinyl album. This one has a bonus track, an 8th track. They say it's wonderful. Again, disco-fied. Here's the inside with her beautiful mug and the CD. I can't believe that they put this out, and I certainly can't believe they put it out on CD. So that's Strange Album number 4. Let's move on to Strange Album number 3. Which is another oldie that some of you may not be familiar with. Marceau. He was a very famous, perhaps the most famous mime from France, born in France. And this album came out in 1970. It was originally put out by Gone If Records, GONE-IF. This isn't labeled side A or side B or 1 or 2, and there's no track listings. And that's because both sides are the same. It's 19 minutes of silence, followed by a minute or 2 of applause, and that's it. It's a joke album because, how can you have the best of a guy who doesn't speak, doesn't talk, doesn't sing, doesn't do anything? He's doing this stuff on the stage. So they just recorded silence and then put in some canned applause. So talk about a money grab. If you think the last one was a money grab, this is really ridiculous. And a guy by the name of Michael Viner did this project. Cost him $50. And he was the guy behind the incredible Bonzo Band. He produced Richard Nixon's first inaugural ball in 1973. He pioneered books on tape, the books on cassette. But this was kind of his first thing. And he somehow convinced the people at MGM Records to put it out on their label and distribute it. So somebody at MGM, I guess, thought this was a good idea. I don't know, maybe it was a really good seller or something, but MGM actually put it out. I don't know if there's anything here I can... No, the liner notes are basically a joke. The whole thing's a joke. So I don't know. I don't know why anybody would buy this unless they were, doing it to send as a joke to a friend or something. MGM actually put out a DJ copy of this record, like a yellow, they send it out for free to radio stations, to DJs, hoping they'll play it. I don't know what DJ in their right mind would play this. I mean, who's going to play a record that has 19 minutes of silence? People will tune in and think the station's off the air and go to some other station. So that was very strange, too, to make a DJ copy. Then in 1986, Marceau was doing a tour in Australia, and his publicity company, in order to, I guess, get some buzz and kind of promote things, they put out a 45 RPM record sleeve. There wasn't even a record in it, just the sleeve, and it was titled, if I can refer to my notes here, His Greatest Hits Live in Australia. And it included a tour, a photo of him with a DJ, an Australian DJ. So once again, another strange thing, just not even a record. And again, how can you have his greatest hits if he doesn't say anything? But strange stuff. So that's number 3. Let's now go on to number 2, which is actually, even though it's number 2, it's my favorite out of all of them. And it's not so much the music that's strange, which some people may consider it. It's more the backstory behind it. And this is Love is a Drag on Lace Records. It came out in 1962. And to read you from the front cover, for adult listeners only, sultry stylings by a most unusual vocalist. Now what this is it's an album that was recorded really, I don't know how else to say it. It was recorded, designed for homosexuals. It was a man singing love songs to another man, love songs that were traditionally sung by women to men, and here it's sung by a man to other men. What kind of songs am I talking about? Lover Man, He's Funny That Way, My Man, Bewitched, Bill, The Boy Next Door, The Man I Love, Mad About the Boy, He's My Guy, Jim, Stranger in Paradise, and Can't Help Lovin' That Man. And to read you a bit from the liner notes, at long last, a male vocalist with great talent has decided to take the big step. That is, to perform these classics using their original lyrics. In doing so, he has broken the barrier which has confronted so many other great singers who, for lack of courage, have not attempted. So, and this is unlike the last one I just talked about. This is not a gag album. This is not a joke album. The songs were sung very seriously, very respectfully, not in a campy or funny way. It's a real, serious romantic album. But, for something like this to come out in 1962 was really groundbreaking, was really, controversial. Maybe today, if something came out like this, maybe it wouldn't be a big deal. But back in 62, this was, very eyebrow-raising. The guy who came up with this idea was the photographer who did the photo work on the album and the producer, a guy by the name of Murray Garrett. and he was approached by the record label. He had been working with them for photography purposes. Maybe he had done some producing in the past too, I'm not sure, but he was approached by them to say, hey, we're looking for to come out with a new record. The record company was called Edison Records. We want to come out with a new album. You got any ideas? And he said, well, 20 years ago, I was in this gay bar, and there was this guy singing love songs to another guy. And they said, aha, great idea. We'll make an album about that. Do you know anybody, any singers, anybody who could sing? Well, his partner, not his romantic partner, his business partner, who was also a photographer, and they had started this photography business together, Gene Howard, was also a singer. He sang with Stan Kenton and some other big bands. I'm not sure, maybe Gene Krupa, but he was an established professional singer. And so they approached him about doing this, and he was intrigued. He thought it would be a challenge. He thought it would be interesting. He liked the concept. So he did it. He did the music on this. Didn't want his name associated with anything to do with the album, because he didn't want to be blacklisted or have it affect his career in a negative way. So nowhere on the liner notes, on the record, on the label, does it state his name, which is why this says sung by a most unusual vocalist. So for many, many decades, nobody knew who the singer was on this record. And then in 2012, Murray Garrett got in touch with a disc jockey and an LBTG historian named J.D. Doyle. And he had a radio show, and he played this album a lot, and he went on the air and talked about, gee, I'd really like to know who the singer was. So Murray Garrett reached out to him out of the blue and said, hey, I'll spill the beans. I'll give you an exclusive interview. And so they did their thing, and that's how this came out, that Gene Howard was the vocalist. So it took 50 years to reveal who sang on this record. Interestingly, there is a clue on the back of the album. If you look on the back here, right here, it says, cover photo and back liner design, Garrett/Howard Inc. That's the photography company. But, Garrett, that was Murray Garrett, the producer and the photographer. Howard, that was Gene Howard, the guy who sang on it. So if someone had noticed this and looked into it and checked it out and found out that Howard was a professional singer, maybe they would have connected the dots and realized that he had sung on this album. But in any event, it took 50 years. It was finally revealed that he was the singer. The other interesting thing is this title, Love is a Drag. Now, in the liner notes, it says, drag, in musical vernacular, a bore, a headache. Now, one thing I thought of was, well, there's a guy taking a drag on a cigarette. Maybe that was it. But also, my mind immediately went to drag as in drag queen. And, because of the content, that's the way my brain thought. But they say, no, it means a bore or a headache. I don't know why you would call your own album a bore or a headache. So I'm not sure that's really what it is. I'm still thinking drag queen kind of thing, but I don't know for sure. Then I'm going to say maybe 2, 3, maybe 4 years ago, but I'm thinking earlier than that, probably 2 or 3 years ago, a company by the name of Sundazed Records / Modern Harmonic actually put out a reissue of this album on gold vinyl and on CD in mono. The record in 1962 was released in mono and stereo. I've never seen a stereo copy. Mine is mono. I've never seen stereo anywhere. I don't know why Sundays didn't put it out in stereo. It was 1962. Stereo was still kind of new, but it was a thing. It wasn't beyond the realm of technology to put out stereo. But the other good thing about this is Sundazed actually owns the master tapes to that recording, which is not always the case. Sometimes when they want to put out a record and they have the rights to put out the record, but they can't find the master, it's been lost, it's been destroyed, they don't know where it is. Sometimes what they'll do is they'll get a pristine mint copy of the record, or maybe a still sealed copy, and open it up, and they'll use that to make the reissue, which is not the greatest way to make a reissue, to make a vinyl album out of a vinyl album. But in this particular case, they had the master tapes, so I'm sure it sounds great. But if you don't want to pay the crazy prices on eBay, assuming you can find it, you can get the reissue through Sundazed. So let's see. Let's go on to where are we going now? We're going to the final one, number one, which is really odd, to say the least. I don't know, again, how old you folks are out there, and if you're... Well, actually, you know what I'll do? Before I do that, I meant to show you the record label. Edison Records wanted to put out this album, and on the liner notes, they say they were proud to put out the album on Lace Records. Edison didn't want to put out the album because they were afraid it would ruin their reputation, so they invented a sub-label called Lace Records. Interesting that it's a album for homosexuals, and they called it Lace Records, and it's got like a pinkish hue to it. So that just adds to the kind of strangeness of it. But another guy that you might remember, depending on your age, is a guy by the name of Ron Popeil. He was an inventor. He started a company called Ronco in 1964, and he came up with all kinds of things, strange things. There was hairspray or spray, hair in a can, hair in a spray can. You could spray on fake hair. If you had like a bald spot or something, you could spray it on. In my case, I'd have to use the whole entire can, but if you just had little touch-up areas, that would probably be good for you. There was the Pocket Fisherman, which was a compact fishing pole. The Veg-O-Matic, which sliced and diced. Mr. Microphone. There was a glass froster, so it would chill your glasses for your drinks. They also had their own record label to compete against K-Tel. So there was Ronco Records, and actually a few of their records reached number one in the UK. And some of them go for some good money on eBay today. So why am I mentioning this guy? Because Enjoy the Ride Records, which was the first one we checked out with Scrooged, put out a album that kind of paid tribute to Ronco and to Ron Popeil. And this here is the front of it. This is Ronco's Showtime rotisserie. So Ron Popeil was known as the father of the infomercial, and he did an infomercial about his Showtime rotisserie, which was a chicken rotisserie unit, quite large. You could put other things in there too. It came with a basket and whatever else. But and he was the guy who came up with the phrase, "But wait, there's more." That was Ron Popeil. And he also came up with a phrase which was in this infomercial, where he would say about setting his rotisserie oven, he would say, "Set it and the audience would yell, 'Forget it!' Set it and forget it." He came out with he tried to copyright that too. I don't think he was successful. But this is the record album that Enjoy the Ride Records put out, very limited, and it's a recording of that infomercial. That's all it is. There's no music. There's nothing else. It's a recording of the entire infomercial for Ron Popeil's Showtime rotisserie oven. Very, very strange, like I said. The other strange thing is there were 4 variants of the cover. So mine shows baby back ribs, but there was also, obviously, chicken. That was another one. There was fish, which was in a basket, two trouts, and there were vegetables also in a basket. So 4 different cover variations. This is the label, the record label. You won't pay $400. You won't pay $300. You won't even pay $200. I think it was $199, wasn't it? Well, this says $24.99. It's a lot more than that now. Ronco still exists. He sold the company in 2005 for $55 million. All right, so we don't need to have a yard sale for Ron Popeil. But there's a Ronco on the line, and they sell these ovens, and they're not $25, I can tell you that. And they sell a few other things too. Ron Popeil died in 2021 at the age of 86, so he lived a nice long life and made himself lots of money. And if you'd like to relive that commercial, you can do so with Enjoy the Ride's Ron Popeil record. So those are my 5 strange albums. I hope you enjoyed the show. I have more, so I may do a version 2. Leave me some comments if you'd like to. If you'd like to have a part 2, I'll consider that. Let me know what you think. You can also go on my website, which is free. It's a blog called, recommendedstations.com. I do this kind of retro stuff and sometimes strange stuff. If you like radio and internet radio, which is, my handle is Stations Guy, if you would, go on to change.org, please, and sign my petition. Just type in NIRD, N-I-R-D, National Internet Radio Day. I'm doing it to try and promote and call attention to internet radio. It doesn't cost anything. It takes you about 10 seconds. I've got just over 800 signatures now, and I'm trying to hit 1,000, so I need some help. So if you would do that, if you've already done it, spread the word, let people know. I'd really like to hit that 1,000 mark. That would be great. And there are other links if you expand the About tab down there. There are other links on there too. But like me, subscribe, leave some comments, show me some love. And thanks very much for watching. Please be kind to each other. And I will see you next time right here on YouTube.